Musicians, does it ever feel like the music business changes every few years, but someone always forgets to send out the memo? It's always like that, right? So a lot of artists are stuck because either they've been trying to do things and it just hasn't been working and they don't know how to adapt to the new music business, or they've been doing things that had worked in the past, but they've stopped working and they don't know how to pivot to start doing things that actually work. This is actually a big problem that I've identified. I call this callusing. Well, what does that mean, Dax? It sounds kind of gross. What do you mean when you say callusing? Well, remember when you, let's say, for instance, you're a guitar player. You start playing guitar and your fleshy little fingers start pressing down on some metal. You start doing, and you, oh, my fingers. Yeah, I was about to do Smoke on the Water. That's how I learned it, by the way. That was my very first. On the high E string, it's the coolest sound. It's way better than the original. No, I'm just kidding. But at first, I'm like, ooh, that hurts. The metal is sharp on my fleshy little 8-year-old fingers. But what happens? I keep going, if it starts to hurt, I stop, but then I go back at it, and I develop a callus. Well, now when I play, it doesn't bother me at all, because I've got this 800-foot callus on my finger. No, I'm just kidding. I've got this giant callus on my fingers because I've been playing for 20 years. But callusing can be a bad thing. What? So when I say callusing, I'm actually referring to a mind callus. Oh yeah, that sounds rough, right? So here's what happens. Let's say we're talking about social media content, right? You go out there and you're like, I know the format. People are going to think this is so cool. So you post it and it doesn't do very well, but you've seen videos from me that's like, be consistent. Don't get too wrapped up in the expectation of one post. Just keep being consistent. And you're like, okay, guys, posting consistently, but it's still not growing. But you're like, man, this format is cool. People got to think this is cool. I'll keep posting though. Maybe it'll catch on. Keep posting. Let's say you do that for a few months. No growth whatsoever. You come to a crossroads, or even if you were in the opposite situation where it's like, dude, this is working, this is great. Hey, why isn't this working as well? Hey, this used to work. Maybe if I just keep at it, it'll eventually work again. You come to the same crossroads, and all of a sudden this road appears before you, and you're like, I can either say, man, what I'm doing is not working. I got to adapt. I got to change. Or I can say, let me just keep at it. I'm just going to keep at it. I'm not going to let this rejection affect me, because there's a big deal. We get in the situation where we're like, it's like, think about it like if you were approaching someone, let's say you're a guy and you're trying to approach a pretty girl and you want to go, not be a nerdy, greasy, sweaty guy who's like, can I have a number? So you go up there and you don't have any game and you don't have anything and you haven't taken a shower and she's totally not into it. And you come up to her and you're like, hey, what's going on? My name's Dax. And she's like, hi, can you go away? And you're like, oh, whatever, I'm not going to let that rejection get to me. Well, there's one side of it where we don't let rejection get to us versus not just paying attention to the rejection, right? What happens to most artists is, let's say, them posting the social media content and it not getting very many views is them being PU rejected by the pretty lady. What do they do most of the times? Instead of saying, why did she do that? Was it something, do I smell? And then actually through that self-analysis going, ooh, oh gosh, no wonder she ran away. Oh my goodness, what? It smells like Game HQ in here. Like what? Sorry, I had to throw that jab out there because my local Game HQ smells terrible. So if you do that inner reflection, you pay attention to rejection, you can learn what you need to learn to improve so that when you approach them the next time, AKA post the next piece of content, they're actually going to go like, hey, how's it going? And they're not just going to go, get away from me, please. So what's the difference? Some people just say, whatever, she was just rude. Let me go to the next girl, even though I still haven't taken a shower and I smell raunchy and my breath's bad. And I go up to the next girl, hey, how's it going? I'm Dax. And she's like, oh, hi. And then she walks away and I'm like, what's her problem? She just doesn't realize what a catch I am. And I go to the next person and I keep doing the same thing. Who is the problem here? Right? So because I haven't figured out, oh wait, what do I need to change to adapt, to improve? See, people get tripped up. They say things like, hey, I don't want to care what other people say. I don't care about other people's perceptions and opinions. Okay, don't care about it in the sense that it doesn't affect your value as a human being. Of course, right? You should know your value as a musician. First and foremost, your value as a human. You should know your value, period, regardless of what other people think of you. But if you're starting to get rejected constantly in the realm of social media, pay attention to the rejection. Don't internalize it and say like, I'm a failure. Don't do that, but pay attention to it so that you're like, why isn't this working? So when you reach that fork in the road, you can actually make an accurate decision. It reminds me of that story of that airplane that crashed over the Amazon, and there was a few survivors, but they were in the middle of the forest, right? In the middle of the Amazon. And one of the guys just so happened to have a machete. And he's one of those Australian types, like, I got a machete. That's not a knife. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry for everyone from Australia who I just immediately offended and they clicked off the video. But he's like, oh, save us. And he starts cutting through the forest and he's just going fast. Like he's like a race car. He's like McQueen through that freaking brush, right? But one of the people doesn't follow. He actually stands back and he goes, wait a second. And he finds a tree real close by and he climbs up to the top of the tree and he starts looking out and he sees the Australian guy. He goes, hey, dude, you're doing great. You're making great time. The only problem is civilization's that way. You're cutting deeper into the forest, man. So here's what happens. Artists will build up a callus around that rejection. They'll say, I'm not going to pay attention to the rejection. I'm not going to pay attention to the rejection. When they really should be paying attention to it because they're cutting deeper into the forest. They're not cutting closer to civilization. See, I know it's a very common thing for people, and I've said it myself in my comments, like, don't worry, keep on going, keep on going. But I don't say, keep on going uninformed and never adapt. That's definitely not the motto. The motto is keep on going, keep on learning, keep your goal fixed, rigid. This is the goal I'm trying to achieve. But the approach to get to the goal should be flexible, right? So if you're trying something and it's working and it's working and then it stops working and then it stops working again, we have to shift. We have to recognize, we have to pay attention to the rejection, not internalize and say, I'm a failure. No, but we look at it and say, something's happening here. I need to make a pivot, right? So that's one of the things, that's one of the first mindset shifts we need to understand in this music business is if you've been doing something over and over and over again one way and it's not working, we have to change things, okay? So I know people are like, I'll get into the video now. People are like, why are your introductions so long? Hey, that's what it is on this channel. The longest part of the video is the introduction. So now that we've gotten through that, let's jump into what are the main new rules, the changes, the way of looking at this business that we need to adopt so that we can actually move forward in the music business and be up to date to know what's actually effective and efficient nowadays. So the first thing that we need to acknowledge is a really deep-seated issue right now. I see it all over threads, all over social media. We have to acknowledge the shift in roles that's happened for you and me, okay, the independent artist. The shift in roles that's happened here is back in the day, it used to be musicians were songwriters and performers. Yeah, we do the occasional interview, the occasional clinic, teaching people how to play our instrument or whatever, a book signing, but mostly it's songwriting and performing. That was the totality of the gig pretty much. However, that is not the case nowadays. Now you're the songwriter, you're the performer, you're the marketer, you're the salesperson, and effectively, you're the CEO. And that's the big shift that I want you to really acknowledge in this video, is you need to start looking at your music like a business. Now, here's the thing. If you're a hobbyist and you really have no desire to turn your music into income, then just ignore all this. I'll see you later. But if you're an artist who wants to start earning an income from their music, you have to look at this like a business. It's called the music business. Which of the two words is bigger? I'm just saying, right? It's a business. So you have to look at things like, okay, instead of me saying, I'm going to go to Shark Tank and just sell my business off to the highest bidder, which is pretty much what getting with a label is like, where they just absolutely say like, yeah, you'll get like 0.1% of everything that we earn and because you have no leverage and we have all the power, so have fun with that. So yeah, you could do that. Or let's say you could view your music business like you're the CEO. You make all the calls. You make all the shots, right? You call those shots. And so when you're the CEO of your own music business, that's a different frame, right? If you're like, I'm a musician, just trying to make it in the music business, but I don't know anything about business, what frame of mind is that in? And I'm not judging anybody that may be in that mindset because you will get through that because we've all been through this. Especially once you get to the other side, you'll realize like, yes, this has been possible and I can do this, right? But we have to go, okay, I am now the CEO of my music business. How would a CEO behave? And if you're like, I don't know, go start getting educated on it, right? That was one of the first things I did way back in the day, back in like 2014, is I started studying entrepreneurship and investing and money and finance because guess what? I was just some kid who didn't know jack about any of that stuff. I was some 18, 17-year-old kid who's going into the real world with no knowledge of what the real world is. I went through the American public school system in Oklahoma. Go check out our ranking in our school system for the rest of the country, and you'll know exactly how great of an education I got, right? So it wasn't very good. So what I had to do was start going to the library, start going to Amazon, buying used books. I've got a bookshelf, a full bookshelf here, a bookshelf in my not my living room. Yeah, I got one there too. And in my bedroom, all because I started this obsession early of, I am not going to be that cliche musician who sits around complaining about that they don't have any money coming in, but at the same time has no business knowledge whatsoever. I feel for the musicians who do have business knowledge, do have entrepreneurial drive, and still haven't gotten results. I feel for them because they know what this game is about and they're trying and they just haven't got where they want to get yet. But the people who have no business knowledge tell you that to even talk about business is like, that's not what art is, and they go through that whole thing, have totally missed the boat. I mean, think about how, like, I've said this on Threads recently. I can't tell you how bad of a piece of advice it is to just tell people write better songs. Not because I don't think you should try to write the best songs possible. Of course you should. Of course you should try to write the best songs possible. But I think most people are trying to do that when they write songs. Like, if you look at the last song you wrote, tell me, did you write the best song you could possibly write? Most people's answer is yes. Like, based on the technology I had available to me, the skills I have, everything that I have in me to make this song as best as I can, I did it. Now what? It's that, then the Spinal Tap question comes in. Well, then what? You know, then what you do? So most people are like, well, just write better songs. I'm like, that is not helpful. They will get better at writing songs the more they write songs. I totally believe that because it is a muscle. It's a creative muscle that you get good at. But I'll tell you what, this defeatist mindset of like looking at anything business related and not being able to like just be okay with it, you know, without looking at business without being like short circuit happening. I know some people hate it when I say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You're the CEO of a music business, which makes you a capitalist. Oh, I know. I just pissed off so many musicians. It's okay though, because that word has been given a charge around it that distorts the reality of what that actually means, right? If you're someone who has something of value and you believe you should be compensated for that thing of value, like let's say a performance, you go out and you play live, you put on a great show, do you deserve to be compensated for the service that you just provided? Absolutely. If you go out there, you put thousands of hours, thousands of dollars into recording an album, should you be paid for people to access that album, like a physical copy of it or a vinyl? Of course they should. So if you believe that we should make this transaction happen and then that's a good thing, you believe in commerce and the free market. I'm just saying, right? So we have to get rid of all these little cultural ideologies that have tried to like fog our vision operating a music business. So, I mean, some of that may be too blunt for some, but I'm an artist. I understand how sometimes that stuff's uncomfortable, but I can also tell you, understanding the truth, operating in the truth, and just moving forward and understanding these principles has yielded far better of a life for me as a musician than it otherwise would have. If I would have stayed that person who was like the ignorant, doesn't know anything about money, Bernie bro that I was in 2013, 14, I would not have near the amount of wealth that I have. I wouldn't have donated as much as I've donated. I wouldn't have had the experiences I've had. I wouldn't have met the people that I've met. It's ultimately yielded a better life for me. And everyone that I know that has gone down this path and has started to make progress, every single one of them, without fail, says that the ride along the way was worth it. And I can tell you from myself and my own personal experience, the ride of figuring this business out, meeting people, talking to people, networking, learning things, it's worth the ride, okay? It's not going to be the thing most people understand, because I know what a lot of musicians are thinking right now. They're thinking, I got in this to be a musician, not a business person. I would say, if that's what you literally mean, then what you just said is, I got in this to be a hobbyist, which means you're not a business person, which means this is irrelevant to you. But if you've decided you want to become a professional musician then yes, absolutely, you have to care about the business. It is mandatory. It's not negotiable. And the artists who have figured this out are the ones who are accelerating past the ones who haven't. I want you to use AI like an analogy for this, right? AI, like something like ChatGPT, something where you're just being productive, right? Hey, help me organize my grocery list, or help me do whatever, right? People who use ChatGPT and AI, generally speaking, to help them be more productive are right now, in the current moment, light years ahead of the artists who are still twiddling their thumbs and saying, I don't even know if I should touch this devil AI stuff, get away from me. They are being left in the dust. So that when these things become super normalized and everyone finally catches up, the artists who have been doing it from the beginning have accelerated exponentially past anybody else. Think about TikTok. When TikTok first came out, it went from music.ly and it turned into TikTok. Some people don't even remember that it used to be called music.ly. And Gary Vee's like, this app is going to be crazy. People are going to love it. And then he was right, because it went from music.ly to TikTok and just exploded, right? But even when it exploded, there were musicians sitting there with their hands behind their back, kind of kicking the ground and going, I don't want to go on TikTok. I don't want to go post dance videos. I don't want to do that. When the musicians who understood the game were like, okay, dude, bye. And they would go and they would create marketing around their music and build an audience around their music from that platform. The musicians who talk crap on TikTok are just the ones who are not on it, to see that the artists who blow up on that app are not just like, hi, let me do a cheesy little video for you. Like, no, they're people who actually come up with clever short form marketing to attract fans into their world. And you could learn so much from these people who are doing really well, right? My favorite people to talk about are Connor Price, Forrest Frank, Nick D's pretty good in certain realms. Like, there's great musicians out there who are just absolutely killing it. But then again, what happened? Eventually, kicking and screaming, pulling, dragging their claws through the ground into the room of TikTok, right? Finally, bands started to go on TikTok. But by that time, it was like 2022, 2023. Like, not that the boat was gone, but that accelerated phase of growth that you could have partaken in, it was gone. Right now, you just got to really grind it out on the algorithm and really just hope it works. Where back in the day, you had an insane organic boost just by posting and being there. And, you missed it. So now you start your TikTok tomorrow, you're going to be light years behind the people that have been doing TikTok for 5 to 6 years now. Then we look at that with AI. Now, I also want you to pull this to your business knowledge. The artist and musician who understands business, economics, finance. By the way, this stuff is on the outside. People are like, but that stuff's confusing and hard to learn. A lot of those institutions just try to make things more complicated than they need to be. But when you understand what the fundamentals are, it's a lot easier. Like, I guarantee, for example, I'll give you a video that's not mine to go watch that's absolutely amazing. It's called How the Economic Machine Works by Ray Dalio. Okay? If you go watch it, it's 30 minutes. It'll explain how the economic machine works, and you will be just from that, so much more economically literate than 90% of the people that you talk to that are musicians. So you understand how this all works. It's not that hard to learn. You will become exponentially further ahead than the musicians who are sitting there going, I don't want to learn anything about business. I just want to do my art. I didn't get in this to be an influencer. And while they're sitting there coming up with excuses that aren't even rooted into reality, you're over there learning how business works, using it for your own advantage, and actually making some progress into your career. And then when they finally are like, okay, fine, I'll figure out how to make my music a business. It'll be like 2030, and we'll have been so far ahead doing this that them trying to keep up or catch up with us is going to be nearly impossible. So we need to understand the opportunity cost here of twiddling our thumbs and putting the hands behind the back and saying, I'm not sure if I want to do it or not. I don't know. We can't do that. We have to make a choice. We're going to say, I'm either going to become a music business professional as an artist, or I'm just going to be a hobbyist. And there's no wrong answer, but you have to figure out what's the right answer for you, okay? Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is one of the new rules of the music business, which is the power is not in the followers. The power is not, I'm going to say this, the power is not in the platform. I know some people may disagree with that, and I'm not saying that platforms have no power. Don't get me wrong. Like I just explained, TikTok was an insanely powerful platform, right? But what's the flaw with the platform? TikTok is a great example. The flaw with the platform is that the US government, or for some whatever reason, all of a sudden, like Thanos, snap and it's gone. Like, hey, I thought we just had this great platform with all these followers that I'd spent years and years and years and years and years and years building up. What's going to happen now that TikTok is gone? Are they just going to vanish? And the answer was yes. But really, if you had understood where the real power was, this would be no concern to you whatsoever. You could build up 1 million followers on a social media account, and you would have no fear of losing any of those followers. How, Dax? How is that even possible? The power is in the list. What does that mean, the list? A text communication list or an email list. A way that you can directly, no algorithm, directly communicate with your fan. That is where the power is. And I'll even go a step deeper. The power is in the relationship that you have with the list. Yeah, it's not just that you have a list of bodies or names and emails in a list. It's that you have a relationship with those people in there. The artist-fan relationship is a strange one, but it is one that exists nonetheless. And so we have to understand that even then, there's a level deeper. So it's not just that the power is in the list. It's not just that the power is in the relationship with the list, but the power is in the value that you provide to the list to build that relationship. Okay? So what I'm getting at is the rule here is that one, we have to build a list that we control, a black box of emails and text and phone numbers that we have access to, and these are our fans and nobody can take this from us. It doesn't matter if, TikTok explodes tomorrow, I've got these group of people that I can still contact the day it goes down, right? That's where the power is. But again, if you just have a bunch of people that you can contact, that's okay. But if you have those people have a relationship, an affinity towards you, that makes it even better now. But what makes that affinity take place? It's the value that you provide to them, right? So we want to build them and build that value, build that affinity, because we're going direct. We're not doing the algorithmic stuff. We're going direct, provide value, and then giving them opportunities in the entertainment industry. They call this touching the hem, okay? So what that really means is think about your favorite artist, like the biggest legendary artist who you absolutely love. Think of, for me, I'll think in the metal genre because that's my genre, like Metallica, a big legendary band, right? To be close enough to Metallica that you could literally like give James Hetfield, a fist bump and a high five type situation, people will pay exuberant amounts of money to be in that seating so that they have an opportunity to touch the hem, so to speak, right? Because that closeness, that proximity has increasing value for you, right? So what we can do is, now that we've built up a value that we've given them, built this affinity and relationship to us, now we can kind of draw them into the third phase of this, which is the monetization phase and the monetization side of your business. So let's recap real quickly, just so we know where we're at here. Number one, understand that your role has shifted from just like songwriter, performer to CEO of your music business. Number two, the power is in the value that you provide to create the relationship with the list that you own. Now we're in a situation where it's like, okay, I've got this list, I've got that connection, I've got that direct access. They want to be able to touch the hem. How do I provide those methods? We have to monetize. We have to figure out ways to create offers. Now I get it. Nobody got into this business. Nobody got into music because they wanted to make money. But everyone who gets into the music business needs money to fuel it because it is a business. Like, that's what we have to understand. It's okay to pursue money as long as you understand that it's not the purpose of the business. The purpose of the business is that affinity, that connection, that relationship that the music brings to you and the fan, right? That's what the music business is about, right? But we cannot move forward in our business if we do not have revenue. So money is the fuel, it's not the purpose. So we have to make peace with that first and foremost. So now that you've understood that, like, okay, I know it's not the reason I got into it, it's not the purpose that my business exists, but I do need it, or else I can't operate a music business for any reasonable amount of time. You'll just hemorrhage money forever. So You have to create offers, okay? Now, what's an offer? An offer is different from like a product or a service because it includes more things. An offer has some additional value that you've thrown into it. Imagine like a merchandise bundle. You're not just getting a t-shirt, you're getting a t-shirt and a signed poster and a wristband. That's adding value. You understand? That's not just a product, that's an offering, okay? So how do you know what offer is going to sell the best? The answer is you have to really know your audience. That's why I stress incessantly on the need for you to understand your ideal fan avatar. Who is this fan you're trying to reach? What is their demographic profiles, their age, their location, their gender, all that kind of stuff. But also, what are their psychographics? What are the things that they're most likely struggling with in their life? Like if you're a country artist, your fans are most likely going through a breakup with their truck right now. And you could write a song. I'm just kidding. But you understand though, like there's common experiences that human beings have. And then there's common frames around those experiences that each genre will provide. Think about it. A breakup is a universal human experience, right? We've all been broken up with or broken up with someone else. So what is the difference? The genre puts a different frame on it, right? Country has a particular frame on the breakup situation. Emo hard rock has a vastly different angle on it. I saw you in my sleep. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to. But you know what I'm saying? There's these two different sides of the same human experience, right? So we have to understand who our fans are on those deep of levels so that when we present an offer to them, it's congruent and aligned with their identity and the culture in the genre that they identify with, okay? So that's one way that you can create an offer that you know your fans will like. However, I definitely recommend that you ask, you test. It's okay to put out an offer and nobody buys. I'm just going to say that. Some people don't like to talk about that in my space. It's like, yes, it's okay. You'll make an offer and maybe no one will buy. That is good data for you to know. Don't offer an offer like that ever again because your fans weren't into it. Because I'll tell you right now, the worst sales copy, that's just salesmanship in print and text, the worst sales copy cannot defeat the best offer possible. The way Gary Halbert puts it is that if your spouse, let's say you're a guy, and your spouse is pregnant, is there any way someone could deliver that information to you and you not care about it? You see what I'm saying? People could go, wife, baby, and you wouldn't be like, you're not very good at communicating. I don't understand what you're trying to say. You're saying words that may be valuable to me, but because of the semantical order, I'm just not going to listen to you. That doesn't happen. If someone came up to me and said, wife, baby, hospital, I'd be like, and get in the car and I'd run and I'd drive off. I wouldn't need that grade of like, are you the husband of X, Y, and Z? Well, I've got some information for you. Whether it was that or wife, hospital, I would have the same amount of power and passion within me to go get to my wife or for your fans, get the offer, right? So if you have an offer that is good enough, your sales copy can be okay and it won't defeat the offer completely. Now, it can not help the offer, that's for sure, but it won't defeat it. However, if you're in a position where they don't even get to your offer because the copy is so bad, then that's a different story. But if it's like they're seeing the offer, but the copy is just not great, they will buy because the offer has to be good. Okay, so we have to understand that. So one big thing was a huge hint that I want to give you. We don't always get to decide how the fans buy, right? Now, there's ways that we sort of, for lack of a better phrase, there's ways that we engineer things. We engineer things for things to be as persuasive as possible for people to take a specific path that we've designed and outlined for them to take, 100%. However, it's through the testing that we figure out exactly what is most effective. And through that testing, can optimize our offers so that they are maximally effective for the new people that come in, okay? So sometimes people are like, man, I just want to like post my offers on stories and why? How come no one's buying my stuff when I post it on stories? I'm like, well, your fans have told you this is not the most effective communication method for delivering that offer to me. It's not as attractive. There's too many distractions. I can literally just swipe to the left and you're gone, and I don't have any obligation to check out your offer anymore. It's not a good platform to sell on. Social media is not a good platform to sell on, direct pitch call to action kind of thing, where you're just like, hey, here's the thing, buy this right now. Not very good. I mean, you can make ads, but as far as like organic posts, not very good. So artists will say, but that's how I want to promote it. Well, okay, well, if your fans have said that's not how I want to buy it. So you have to figure out, what do they want? How can I provide it for them? I know that sounds like rocket science. What do they want? Figure out what person wants and then make what person wants for them. Right? That's how simple monetization can be inside of your music business. Now, granted, there's more processes to it than that, but as far as the conception of like, what's the strategy? That's the strategy right there. Find thing people want to buy, make thing that people want to buy for them. And then use that affinity that you've already done in the second step, building the list, building that connection. Now when you have the offer, you've done the work ahead of time to get them in a state, in a mind frame where they just want to support you, right? That's why I say this is one of the new rules, is you have to get an email list and understand the power of it and utilize your email to its fullest extent. Because that's how you build that connection, so that when you say, hey, do you want to support me? They're like, yeah, this is an awesome offer. It's a way to support you. Win-win. Let's go. But if we don't create an offer that's desirable to them, let's say I'm pitching to my country fans and I'm like, would you like this black t-shirt with our white logo turned into a death metal logo where it looks like a bunch of tree branches are stacked on top of each other? Country fans are going to be like, what are you talking about, dude? See, I'm from Oklahoma, so I can do that. But you understand, like, they're going to be like, this ain't the deal. You go to a Taylor Swift audience with the same thing. You want to buy this? They're probably like, this person's going to kill me. Because, that's their conception of metal artists, most likely. But you get the point. We can't just decide for our fans, you will buy this and you will like it, and that's how it's going to be. You have to test offers. You have to test and do surveys and ask, what would you like to see me sell? What would be something right now that would be so useful and awesome for you? Like, ask questions, ask your audience, dive in and figure out what they want, and then go make that thing for them. Okay. So if we look at just a few of these new rules that have shifted in the music business, one, you're now the CEO. Congratulations. We've given you your cap and gown. Woo! You are the CEO. Now that you're the CEO, you have to go build a list of fans. A list of fans who you can contact directly, right? Not someone who you're dealing with the algorithm and all that. No, you contact them directly, okay? And so as you're contacting them directly, you're building that communication. You're building that like of them. Now, what you do from there is, now that you like that person, you actually start to sell them something so you can buy from them. Or they can buy from you, excuse me. So they buy from you because you've built that relationship and you've created an offer that they're like, yes, I want that right now, please. And so you do that 3 steps. I don't want to give you 10 rules. People make these videos, the 10 rules. Do these 3 things. Do these 3 things. Look at your music business more like a CEO would look at their business. Build a list of fans that are going to be prospects. And when I mean prospects, that just means someone who's going to buy something from you in the near future. You get those fans into a list, you turn them into prospects because they're going to buy something from you, and then you give them ways to support you. That is the through line of direct marketing. And if you follow those 3 steps, you will be light years ahead of most people that are focusing on, what if I built a broadcast channel on Instagram? Let's dedicate 6 hours of my day to thinking about doing that, designing it, and then eventually launching it. I just don't think that's going to do anything for you. I'm sorry. What if I built like a Facebook group that did like hey, that could be cool, but do you need to spend all that time on it? Maybe the time you've spent driving people into the Facebook group, maybe you could have driven them into the email list and it would have been more effective. Like I've mentioned before, according to HubSpot, email has a 36-to-1 ROI. I'd rather put those contacts, if I'm going to drive people somewhere, I'd rather them join the email list than a free Facebook group. Because honestly, I don't really like Facebook that much anymore. If you're going to have a group, have like a school community, or there's other softwares that have groups built into them and things like that. But hopefully you guys now, moving forward in your music business, where are the 3 things that you need to adapt? You need to be more business minded. You need to look at your content And when you see mistakes happening, you see, not mistakes, but you see lack of progress, don't internalize the failure. Acknowledge the failure and learn from it. So if we ignore failure and we get calloused to failure so that failure hits us and we don't even know it's happening, that's not going to serve anybody. But if you can look at, hey, this isn't working. Let me try to pivot something. Let me change the format. I've been doing this one thing forever. Let's try something different. Let's try something different. And then you'll figure out what works because you're thinking more like a CEO now who's willing to adapt to succeed. You build up that list, build up those customers, those fans that you can reach out to one-on-one so that you can build that connection and have something that you can offer them so that you can make some money and start generating some income from your music business. So this is the through line of the new modern music business. Sure, there's many other things we could go into, but those are to me the three most important pillars. And if you'd like some one-on-one help implementing those into your music business, there's a link in the description to apply for a coaching call to see if it'd be a good fit for us to work together. Also subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that kind of good YouTube-y stuff. And I look forward to seeing you on another video inside of Musicians Ignite. Take care.